we called the ambassador today. There is no signal from us that NATO membership is not a goal. This is not the first time that it is being raised, that this is not an important issue. So this is not from our side, this is not something that we say. As for sanctions, I believe this is not only something we discussed with Chancellor Scholz. I do not have the answer as to what exactly sanctions are going to be used for this escalation from the Russian Federation, but I would also say that it was just the Chancellor, it wasn't just the Chancellor who told me this. I would leave this answer. I have put this question to many leaders in this very dangerous last few months, and I have personally not heard a specific reply so far, so I cannot answer to this question. We're working very intensely to prepare a package of sanctions that can be implemented. It is being discussed in detail with our partners, with American President and his advisors and European Union, and we are any time in a position to actually take the necessary decision. I think that has been talked about. So myself and many others in the conversations that we have conducted, we always mentioned this vis-a-vis Russia. This is going to happen, and nobody should doubt that. Nobody should doubt how prepared the EU and NATO or Germany or the US is to actually do what needs to be done. If that's a military action, then these are far-reaching measures, and it will have impact on economic reality of Russia. Now the task is to prevent this. We have to escalate this situation, and this is why our conversation today was very important. So when I say necessary legal drafts have been set out for the Minsk process, that is a very good step ahead, and it means that we would, once we have got out of that situation, well, I'm very grateful for their role in this, and will take the necessary decisions. Mr. President, the embassies of several countries have said they would be moving their offices to Western cities in Ukraine. And also reports yesterday that there were statements by politicians and opposition members who were either leaving or moving their families. Where's your family today? And what's your attitude to these movements by diplomats? Thank you. I'll start with the pleasant part. My family is always with me, always with Ukraine, and I'm not being self-important here. My wife is the First Lady, and she needs to set an example, and I need to, this is not compulsory, and we will talk about others as well, but I think it's a matter of principle. It's very important for the state and society to support Ukraine. A citizen is not somebody who has Ukrainian passport. It is somebody who's in Ukraine. We're living in a great time. As for the politicians and diplomats, businessmen that you mentioned, there were 30 charter flights, and reported yesterday, we have a rich country. Mr. Scholz says we need to invest in Ukraine, and you see yesterday 30 charter flights left. So a lot has been invested. So the main thing is that these flights are not taking anything out of Ukraine. I think those who are staying are reliable, true citizens of Ukraine, and I'd like to thank them. I'd like to thank the diplomats as well. It's an important time, again, on this path, not only to European Union or NATO. This is a path to the future, and it's important to remain with Europe. And it's a big mistake on certain embassies' part to moving Western Ukraine. There is no Western Ukraine. There is only one Ukraine. And if anything happens, all of Ukraine is going to be affected. So we can't say if there's escalation and you're 5 or 6 hours away from it. No, it's not like that. We are all one country, and people of Lviv will stand by this, and then it's their choice. I will focus on our leadership, the leadership of our country, and those who are currently abroad. I mean, members of certain parties. I don't want to name names, but you would know who they are. I think this is a serious challenge. We should signal to them from the parliament, from the speaker, on behalf of the state, and I personally would like to ask that within 24 hours they would return to the country once they moved their families. This is a moment of unity for us, and I think they must return. Otherwise, we all, as a state, we all would draw serious conclusion. And the same applies to the media. You can't say that you're patriots and move your people to Lviv or Czech Republic or United States because you've been ordered to do so. I think this is unfair and dishonest. If you do that, you're not patriots. You are patriots of a different state. And therefore, there is a big problem with the oligarchs that you mentioned. We, the state, cannot influence business, and we're not going to try that. I think they made their choice, but I think they must return to their companies, to the tens of thousands of people working for them and for the country, but also for them. They chose this. These are not just ordinary people. These are the people of serious industries, and they are over-emboldened via privatization, and I think this country gave them something. It gave them a great chance. So these are not just IT people. So that's my attitude. Those who go, we don't need them. Citizens of Ukraine will remain. We have one last question now. Mr. Zelensky, I'm joining this question from the Foreign Office of Germany. The Foreign Office of Germany has urged its citizens to leave Ukraine and also moved its consulate to the west of Ukraine. Does it mean that Germany is stabbing Ukraine in the back, or is this appropriate, considering that the threat in the current situation? And as for Mr. Scholz, Ukraine emphasized several times that we are having weapon deliveries from Germany, and Germany does not really sell weapons to crisis areas. And how does Germany support Ukraine with the military items? Thank you. At this time, indeed, there are many questions. There are many questions that we have differences with various countries, but I'm a very open person. If the German ministry moved somebody, I don't know, I've not heard of it. Right now, I can see German ambassador is here. And I think she is here not only because of the Chancellor, not here because the Chancellor is here. We meet often with her. So I have no doubt that of course, there's no question that this is your right. And I have no question to German embassy, and I thank you for the support. I would like to appreciate what the German ambassador did for this situation, and it is not just that, it's German legislation. We are not exporting to crisis areas. We are providing other supports. We are the biggest financial supporter, for example, to Ukraine, and this is how it is going to remain. Regarding the questions of individual possibilities, we're examining this question continuously, and this is how it's going to be in the future. And if these examinations have completed, we're going to be able to say something more.